Hi everyone, well done for such a good phonics lesson this afternoon. I thought we'd share when Findus was little and disappeared. I wonder who Findus is. Do you think it might be the badger? Could it be this person here? Maybe this is Findus. Shall we find out? Old man Petson sat with his cat Findus in his lap. Cat Findus, solving a crossword. Tell me about when I disappeared, said Findus. You haven't disappeared, you're sitting right here, said Petson. Yes, but when I was little. Oh, then, but you already know that. I've told it to you so many times. Tell me anyway. Well, I suppose I can, Petson said, putting his crossword aside. Do you want the whole story, or just when you disappeared? Tell me the whole story, said the cat, settling himself contentedly. Then I will tell you the whole story, the old man said. This is the way it was. Once upon a time, there was an old man called Petson. He lived in a little house in the country as comfortably as any old man could wish. The only trouble was that sometimes he felt lonely. Certainly he had a few neighbours he could talk to if necessary, but they had their own lives to think about. And he had his hens, of course, and they were quite good company, but they were so scatterbrained. Just as he was talking to them, they would simply run off because one of them had found a worm or something. There was never any deeper conversations. When darkness fell and the hens had gone to roost, the small house often felt very empty and quiet. Then it was as if nothing was as much fun anymore. Poor Petson, all alone in his house. One day, Beda Anderson from the neighbouring farm came over to say hello and have a chat. She brought buns and Petson offered her coffee in the arbour, but she didn't say much. Beda Anderson understood he wasn't happy. You should have a wife to cheer you up a bit, she said. Nah, said Petson. If so, I would have found one years ago. Now I'm too old. I've got used to managing on my own. It would be too much with a whole lady. No, I don't need one. You haven't even got a cat, she said. Nah, Petson said, and pondered a long while. Pondered is a beautiful word, isn't it? Pondered means thought, pondered, wondered, pondered a long while. A cat is no trouble. Perhaps I should have one. The following week, Beda Anderson came back. This time she brought a cardboard box. This'll keep you company, she said, and gave the box to Petson. What's this? Said the old man and read on the box. Findus green peas, it says. They're squeaking. He opened the box, and there, on a green piece of striped cloth, stood a kitten. It looked Petson right in the eyes and squeaked. Hello, Findus green peas, Petson said, feeling just as when you pull up the blinds on a summer morning and the warm sunlight pours in. I'm Petson, and this is my kitchen. You're going to live here now. And then, would you like some coffee? He doesn't drink coffee, Beda Anderson said. He wants milk. Special cat milk you need for cats, don't you? Not real milk. And he can probably eat something else as well. Something else? Petson repeated absent-mindedly, completely preoccupied with the cat. He lifted it. There was room for it in his hand, and he poked in the fluffy fur, and Findus wrapped his claws around his finger and bit him. Oh, he bites! Petson smiled and let him do it. Then he looked at old Miss Anderson with concern in his eyes. Won't he miss his mother? For a couple of days, perhaps. Then he will forget her. You'll have to take care of him and be his new mother. Mother? Petson said foolishly, and looked very happily at the biting kitten. Ouch! Now the days were much easier for Petson. The house wasn't empty anymore. Findus was in the kitchen, and the old man closed the door behind him when he went out to chop wood or potter about the garden. He'll probably manage on his own for a while, he thought. Cats can get by when they're on their own. Everyone knows that. but perhaps I should go inside and have a cup of coffee. Never before had he drunk so much coffee as that. I think he's drinking lots of coffee so he can be inside with Findus. Petson had somebody to talk to, someone who did not just run off clucking at any moment. He talked as though he had never talked before. He told about his childhood, about cows he had known, about how potatoes grew. Yes, about everything that flashed through his mind. He thought it was a pity that Findus could not say something too. He just squeaked. Petson thought that if I just talked long enough, maybe Findus will learn to speak. Every evening he read stories to the cat. Well, they weren't really stories. They could be an article in the paper about a new combine harvester, or a short story from a magazine about a nurse who was in love, or a piece about cogwheels and levers in a book about inventions that Petson had. And all of those things are reading, aren't they? You don't have to read stories to be reading. You can read anything, and it's still reading. That's what makes reading so amazing, is that you can read anything that makes you happy. And these things make Petson happy. Findus sat quietly in his lap, listening and looking at the illustrations and the pictures, if there are any. Then one day, when they were sitting there looking at the glossy weekly, Findus stood up in the middle of the paper and looked for a long time at a picture of a clown in big striped trousers. "I want a pair of trousers just like those," Findus said. Petson stared at him. This was the first thing the cat had said. "Then you shall have them," said the old man. "I shall sew a pair for you right away." He smiled happily as he took out the needlework box. What a cat he had got. The days passed and the weeks. Findus grew bigger. Now he ran around wherever he wanted on his own. When they had to go a little farther, all the way to the carpentry shed, for example, he had to sit on Petson's shoulder. He wanted to be with him everywhere. He talked all the time. The quiet, empty house was full of talking and running. Every morning Petson was woken by Findus jumping on him, or pressing against his nose, or wrestling with his big toe. There was no more mornings when the old man just wanted to pull the quilt over his head and disappear. Just the thought of living all alone again made him sad, so he quickly stopped thinking about that. And why should he think of that when he saw the little cat with the big striped trousers jumping up and down on his stomach, shouting, "Wake up, Petson, we're going to play!" But one morning, Petson woke up, realising something was wrong. Instantly he recognised the heavy silence from before, when there was no cat jumping him out of his sleep. He was wide awake and leapt out of bed. "Findus, where are you?" he called, looking under the quilt, under the pillow, under the bed, in his shoes, out in the hall, out in the kitchen. "Findus, are you there?" He looked and called everywhere. He ran barefoot out into the carpentry shed and the woodshed and into the hens. How do you think he's feeling? I think he's very worried, isn't he? Because he loves Findus and he doesn't know where Findus is. He pulled open the door with a jerk, making all the hens fly, clucking in all directions. "Have you seen Findus?" he panted. "Help a thief! The bull's coming! Where's Findus? Petson hasn't got his trousers on!" All the hens clucked at once. "Quiet!" Petson shouted. The hens grew quiet. "Findus has disappeared. Has he been here?" "Nope. I don't think so today," Pinchy clucked. "Are you the one who takes our eggs every day?" Petson left without answering. Those hens did not know what was happening from one moment to the next, and he himself had no idea that at that moment, only meters away, Findus sat scared stiff. I wonder where Findus is. He had explored the house while Petson was sleeping. In a cranny under the stairs to the attic, he found a hole in the wall, and there he crawled in. He was not in the least afraid of the dark, but all the more curious. There was not much light in there, but his eyes grew quickly accustomed. Here and there a faint sunbeam filtered in through some hole, and that was enough for him to see. This was the world of mice and insects. It was here they lived and hoarded all the things that Petson had mislaid. Here it was dusty from the old wood, sawdust and spiders' webs. He moved on inside the walls, under the floor, through the narrow passages. He followed the faint streaks of light there. Sometimes he had boards under his paws, and sometimes cool, damp soil, like mud. Around a corner it grew lighter, and soon he was blinded by the sunlight breaking through the foundation of the house. He came out into tall grass outside the house. There was a lot of rubbish and rusty things among the nettles. He did not know where he was. He had never been here before. Then he heard something rustling and grunting in the grass. There was something big just behind him. He turned around and saw a big furry lump coming straight towards him. Every hair on Findus's body stood up. Like a steel spring, he made a leap into the pile of rubbish and down into an old box. What do you think this furry thing is? Oh, it feels very scary, doesn't it? Through a knothole, he could see the horrible monster. Oh, is it a monster? It's just a little badger. It was round and grey and had black and white stripes on its head. It walked about, sniffing the grass and making lots of noises, as if it was talking to itself. It was probably looking for kittens it could eat, Findus thought. Do you think badgers eat kittens? He kept as quiet as he could and hoped the beast would not discover him. Now he heard Petson call out. He was at least near the house then, but how was he going to make the old man look here? He didn't dare call back, for the beast might see him. Minutes passed, and the grey furry lump remained just outside the box. Findus started crying. "There's a lot of crying going on in here," said a voice. "Must be a sad cat sitting here," another voice said. It was two of the small animals that lived in the house. Findus had met their kind before. They could turn up anywhere, so he didn't think it was strange they were suddenly standing inside the box. "I don't dare to go out," Findus sobbed. "There's a big horrible animal out there who's going to eat me. Petson will never find me here." The two small characters jostled one another to be able to look out through the knothole. "Wow, wow, 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 it looks dangerous. It will probably eat us all. You'd probably better stay here." "I don't want to," Findus squeaked. "I want to go home to Petson." "Nah, you can live here, it's fine. Don't be sad, I can tell you stories," one of them said. "And I can tell you even better ones," the other said. "Once upon a time there was a muckle who was kind and nice. He was big and strong too, and wise and beautiful, and he was probably the best there was. He was the best thing there ever was. His name was Splash." No, his name was Gale. The story was about when a muckle found a cat in a box, but it was mostly about how clever the muckle was and almost nothing about the old cat. Findus grew tired of their bragging. "I don't want to hear your boring stories. I want Petson to come," he sobbed. "Can't you go and tell him?" "Telling him might be difficult. He probably doesn't know our language. He can't even see us." "Nah, he's a bit daft, but I can give him a few hints. Don't be sad. We'll fix this." "We'll fish everything." And then they were gone. He felt better straight away. Since they were so clever, they would probably get Petson here one way or the other, Findus thought. He sat behind the knothole, keeping an eye on the monster, and waited for the old man to come soon. Petson searched through the house once more. Now he was really worried. He had to go out and look around the house and the garden and all the way up the road. When he was going to get dressed, he couldn't find his socks or his shoes. He wondered how things could disappear so often. Screws, pens, tools, they were just not where he'd put them, and then he would find them much later somewhere else. It was as if there was somebody else in the house borrowing these things. A brownie, perhaps. He used to like thinking there could be a brownie in the house, like a little elf or pixie, like a brownie. Then it didn't feel so empty. But now he had Findus, of course. Perhaps he invented a new game, hide the cat, fool the old man. No wonder how much he scratched his head and pulled at his beard. The shoes and the socks were just as gone as Findus. He put on his boots and went out to look outside the house. Then he called